Hi everyone, my name is Miss Taylor and welcome to this lesson. Today we are going to go through some very important things about indirect speech, also commonly known as reported speech. Okay, so let's move on to the first slide before we discuss indirect speech. So, what is indirect speech? Good question. First things first, if you didn't know yet, indirect speech is exactly the same as reported speech. We use this when we want to tell someone what another person said, but without using their exact words, or quoting their exact words. Think of it like this. Imagine you hear some exciting news from a friend, and later you want to tell another person about this. Instead of repeating their exact words or the exact words your friend used, you say it in your own words. That's what indirect speech is. Okay, so an example scenario could be Jamie and Alex are chatting. Jamie says, did you know that Jake asked Mary to the dance? Well, that's direct speech because we are then quoting Jamie's exact words. Later, Alex tells Mary about it. Alex says, Jamie asked if I knew that Jake had asked Mary to the dance. Here, Alex didn't quote Jamie's exact words. She changed them into her own little version by paraphrasing what she had heard. So this is indirect speech because she is reporting what Jamie said to her, but only in a different way. Okay, so a key rule in indirect speech is we don't use quotation marks, and we usually use the word that. Also, we report what was said in a different way while keeping the meaning the same. So, why is indirect speech important? Indirect speech is mainly used in writing, especially in news articles, storytelling, and formal communication. However, we also use it in everyday conversation when we share information we heard from someone else. But luckily, when we speak, we don't always have to follow the strict grammar rules of indirect speech, but in writing, grammar rules definitely are important to follow. So let's talk about an overview of tense changes. One of the biggest things to understand about indirect speech is how tenses change when reporting something someone said in the past, present, or future. We will go through these 10 changes in detail, so feel free to take notes as we go along. Okay, so let's go to slide 2. Okay, so let's talk about direct speech versus indirect speech. Let's start by understanding the difference between direct and indirect speech. So direct speech is when we quote the exact word that the speaker used in quotation marks. For example, she said, I love pizza. So I love pizza is her direct words. It's in quotation marks. And indirect speech is when we report what the speaker said without using quotation marks. We remove the quotation marks completely and it's in indirect speech. And we don't quote it in their exact words, but we paraphrase it while keeping the meaning the same. So it will be, she said that she loved pizza. Notice the changes. So the pronoun I changes to she, and the verb tense also changes. Love changes to loved. Okay, so let's see, there's no quotation marks used in indirect speech. And notice that these changes are very important and we will explore them in the next slides. Okay, so slide 3, changes in pronouns. When we convert direct speech into indirect speech, we often need to change pronouns to match the new sentence structure. Okay, so for example, in the direct speech, it would be, he said, I have finished my work, in quotation marks, and it will then be changed into indirect speech. He said that he had finished his work. So let's talk about what changed. So the I becomes a he because we are reporting what he said, and my becomes his because the work belongs to him, not the person reporting it. Ne? Right, so this is a simple rule, but very important when forming indirect speech correctly. Okay, let's talk about tense shifts in indirect speech. So, one of the most important things about indirect speech is how tenses shift when reporting the speech. This process is called backshifting. It's not a common tense that is used, but just for interesting sake, it's called backshifting. So common tense changes can be from the present simple to past simple. Examples can be, he said I eat apples in direct speech, and it will change to he said that he ate apples. So present simple to past simple. Then present continuous to past continuous. In the direct speech, it would be I am eating apples, present continuous, né? And in indirect speech, it would change to he said that he was eating apples, past continuous. Okay. And then present perfect to past perfect. I have eaten apples, present perfect, to past perfect. He said that he had eaten apples. Okay. Just still notice the changes. Direct speech has quotation marks. It is direct words, and indirect speech has no quotation marks. It is still the same words, but not exactly the same. It has been paraphrased and changed. See that the word that is mostly used as well. And note, the tense in the direct speech changes to a past tense in the indirect speech. An important thing to remember, if the reporting verb like said, told, or asked is in the present tense, the tense is in the reported speech the tense that is in the reported speech does not always change. We will discuss this more in detail soon. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. Okay, so slide 5 is about reporting questions. I tried to move my camera. It is in front of the examples, but the examples are, I'm going to go through them with you. So if you can't see them, I'm sorry. I tried to move the little circle there. Okay, so reporting questions. When we report a question, the structure changes a bit. Okay, so you can see that at least in the examples. Okay, so let's look at a question in direct speech. The direct speech question would be, she asked, where is the shop? Now, when we change it to indirect speech, we don't use the question mark and we change the word order. So in indirect speech, it would be, she asked where the shop was. That is the example that you can't see that right there. She asked where the nearest shop was. So let's talk about what changed exactly. So number 1, the question mark is removed. Number 2, the word order changes from where is to where was, because we are reporting the question in our own words. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Guys, so reporting yes and no questions. So when the question is a yes or no question, we report it differently. So let's look at a yes or no question. As you can see there in direct speech, it would be, he asked, did you finish your homework, in quotation marks. Now in indirect speech, it would be, he asked if I had finished my homework. So notice that the question mark is gone. Number 1, again, we've talked about this. Number 2, we use if or whether to start the indirect question. So you can say, he asked if I had finished my homework, or you can say, he asked whether I had finished my homework. So it depends which one you want to use. And number 3, the verb tense changes from did to had. So it's not did you finish your homework, it's he asked if I had finished my homework. Now, okay, reporting commands and requests. Let's talk about this for a little bit. So when we report a command or a request, the structure changes a bit more. For example, in indirect speech, she asked, please pass me the pen. You see the quotation marks. And in indirect speech, it would be, she asked me to pass her the pen. So what changed? we can clearly see the verb changes from please pass to ask me to pass. So we use the verb to after asked. Okay, so it's quite that simple. Now, practice makes perfect. I have 3 sentences here for you, 3 direct speech sentences. Feel free to write them down and practice them. Practice changing them. Go back to the before slides, the slides before, and look at the notes. Listen to what I've taught you, and try to change these direct sentences into indirect speech. And that would be all for this lesson today. Thank you all for joining me for this lesson, and I hope you have a great day.